Welcome to Martha Family Secrets. She smiled when she said it. That is the part one keep coming back to. My mother smiled, right there in the middle of a crowded restaurant on a Friday night, with George Strait playing low through the ceiling speakers and 40 people eating their dinners around us, and she looked me in the eye and said 6 words that rearranged every single memory I had ever carried. You were always just a benefit. 6 words. 25 years. Gone. But here is the part she did not know. I had been preparing for that exact moment for 8 months. And the 3 people sitting in the far corner booth behind her, the ones she had never seen before in her life, they were not strangers to me. Not anymore. I did not cry. I did not walk out. I reached into my bag and pulled out an envelope, and everything inside that restaurant changed. But to understand why, you need to hear the whole story from the beginning. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you are listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. My name is Maya. I am 25 years old. I grew up in one of those small towns where everybody knows your name and, more importantly, everybody knows your parents' version of who you are. The kind of town where a story told enough times at the right dinner tables becomes the truth, whether it is or not. Let me take you back 8 months. 8 months before that birthday dinner. 8 months before the envelope. I am on my hands and knees in my parents' basement on a Saturday morning, sorting through boxes that smell like old newspaper and Christmas tree preservative. My mother Renee had left a sticky note on my apartment door, because Renee does not knock when a note will do. It said, "Basement Saturday, do not forget." My cousin Amber was moving back to town after a breakup, and apparently the basement needed to be cleared for her things. Not asked. Informed. So here I am, covered in dust, dragging cardboard across a concrete floor, finding boxes of old holiday decorations and my stepfather Dale's fishing gear and the accumulated debris of a family that keeps everything except the truth. Tucked behind the water heater, I find a box sealed with packing tape. Renee's name written on the top in faded marker. I should not open it. I know I should not open it. My hands open it anyway. Inside, a manila folder. Inside the folder, my entire life rearranges itself in about 45 seconds. An official adoption certificate. A birth certificate I have never seen, the original one, with the words Baby Girl Calloway typed in the center in old typewriter font. And underneath both of those, a receipt from a tax consultant. A single line highlighted in yellow. Adoption tax credit. $5,400. Oh. I sit on that cold basement floor for 40 minutes. Not crying. Just recalculating. Going back through every memory I have ever filed under love and re-examining it with this new information. Every time Renee told a neighbor, adopting Maya was the most selfless thing we have ever done, her voice carrying that particular pride that sounds almost like bragging if you listen closely enough. Every time Dale went quiet when I asked about baby photos. Every Christmas card that read our greatest blessing, sent to every single family on the block in Renee's precise handwriting. I pull out my phone and call my best friend Dara. She picks up on the second ring. What is wrong? I need you to come to the parking lot behind the vet clinic. Not inside the lot. Maya, you are scaring me. Just come. I fold the birth certificate carefully, slide it into my jacket pocket, and put Renee's box back exactly where I found it. The name Calloway burns against my ribs the entire drive to the clinic, like a word I have been trying to remember my whole life and suddenly cannot stop hearing. Dara meets me in the gravel lot, still wearing her scrubs from the afternoon shift. She reads the birth certificate under the dome light of her car, then reads it again without speaking. Then she looks up at me. Calloway, she says quietly. Have you ever heard that name? Never once. She sets the paper down on her knee. She is quiet for a moment in the way that Dara gets quiet when she is thinking hard and carefully. Then she says, "Remember the DNA ancestry kit I gave you for Christmas?" I did. It was still in the original plastic wrap shoved into my bathroom drawer. I had told her I did not need it. I told her I already knew who I was. That feels like someone else talking now. Use it, Dara says. Tonight. So I do. Cheek swab, registration code, sealed envelope. I drop it in the mailbox outside the post office at 11 in the evening. 6 weeks for results. 6 weeks to keep my face perfectly normal at the Sunday dinner table. And for those 6 weeks, I watch Renee with completely new eyes. I notice things I had always noticed but never allowed myself to name. The way she says after everything we have done for you whenever I ask to borrow the truck. The way she tells the story to anyone who will listen, her voice carrying pride the way other people carry shame. The way Dale goes very quiet when Renee starts talking about the adoption, suddenly finding something deeply interesting to stare at on the floor. I keep paying my $400 a month rent for the converted garage apartment behind their house. I keep showing up for Sunday dinner. I keep saying thanks, Mom, when she passes the bread basket. Dara asks me over coffee one afternoon, how are you holding up? I am waiting, I tell her. For what? For proof. What I do not tell Dara yet, what I barely allow myself to think out loud, is that I am also waiting for something worse. I am waiting to understand why a tax receipt was filed alongside my birth certificate like the two documents belong together. Like one explained the other. The email arrives on a Tuesday during my lunch break. I am sitting in my car in the clinic parking lot, eating a granola bar, when the notification slides down from the top of my screen. Ancestry close family match found. I stop chewing. The screen loads slowly the way everything loads slowly in a small town with unreliable signal, and then there it is. Sandra Calloway, age 46. Location, Millhaven, a town 2.5 hours east. Match confidence, 99.7%. Relationship, parent. I stare at her profile photo. A woman with short dark hair and tired eyes and a kind smile, standing in front of a garden. She is wearing scrubs. Community health nurse, the profile says. Married to James Calloway, 48. One son, Tyler, age 20. I have a brother. The granola bar sits untouched on the passenger seat for the rest of my lunch break. I try to write an email 7 different times. The first 6 are too long, too desperate, too careful, too angry, too something. The 7th is 3 lines. My name is Maya. I believe you may be my biological mother. I am not angry. I just want to know. I hit send before I can change my mind. 4 hours later, my phone buzzes. One line from Sandra Calloway. I have been waiting for this email for 25 years. I read that sentence 3 times. Then I lock my phone, press it against my chest, and sit in that clinic parking lot until the sun drops completely behind the tree line and the sky goes dark around me. I need to stop right here for just a moment, because I know some of you are already thinking, Maya, why did you not just confront them immediately? Why wait? And honestly, that is a fair question. But here is what I want you to understand. There is a difference between knowing something is wrong and being ready to face it. I was not ready yet. Not until I had the whole truth in my hands. And what I was about to find over the next 8 months, including what Sandra told me about the night I was born, and what Renee said out loud in that restaurant in front of 40 witnesses, would change everything. Stay with me. Because the night of that birthday dinner, and what I placed on the table between us, is something I will carry for the rest of my life. And part 2 begins right where this ends. Welcome back. I am Maya, and for 25 years I believed that the people who raised me were the only family I would ever have. 2.5 hours east, a woman named Sandra Calloway was lighting a candle on my birthday every single year, alone in her kitchen, not knowing if I was ever coming. For 3 months after that first email, I lived in 2 completely separate worlds. On my days off, I drove east on the county road to Millhaven. The first visit, Sandra's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the casserole dish coming out of the oven. James answered the front door and said, "Welcome home, kid," in a voice that made it clear he had been rehearsing those words for days and still almost could not get them out. Tyler, 20 years old, loud and lanky and immediately comfortable in a way I did not expect, pulled out his phone and showed me photos of Sandra when she was young. "You have got her chin," he said, grinning. "Sorry about that, by the way." Sandra opened a small wooden box on the kitchen counter. Inside, resting on a fold of cotton, was a hospital wristband so small it would not have fit around two of my fingers together. Baby girl Calloway. She has kept it for 25 years. She told me she lit a candle on March 15th every year. Every single one, without missing once. Her eyes were full when she said it, not spilling over, just full, the way water looks right before it has to go somewhere. I visited 4 more times over those 3 months. Each time the drive east felt a little shorter. Each time I sat at Sandra's kitchen table, I noticed something new about the way a family works when nobody is performing anything. Sandra always asked follow-up questions. That sounds like a small thing. It is not a small thing. 25 years of Sunday dinners and Renee had never once asked a follow-up question in her life, not out of respect for my privacy, but because she genuinely was not that interested in the answer. Sandra wanted to know everything. And she listened to the answers the way you listen when you are making up for lost time. I carried Sandra's letter with me everywhere. She had written it on hospital stationery, 2 pages front and back, in careful handwriting that got shakier as it went. She told me about the night I was born. About being 22 and alone and a family that pressured her into decisions she did not fully understand. About signing papers that no one properly explained. About a nurse named Diane who held her hand through the last 3 hours because there was no one else. 3 weeks before my birthday, Renee did something she had not done in 5 years. She knocked on my apartment door, smiling the smile she reserves for church potlucks and school events she shows up to only when someone important is watching. "Honey," she said. "Dad and I want to take you to dinner for your birthday. Maggie's place, Friday night. Just the 3 of us. We have something important to talk about." That sweetness in her voice. I have only ever heard it in 2 situations. When she wants something. Or when she is about to take something away. I knew exactly what was coming. 2 weeks before my birthday, I came home from work and found a type note on my kitchen table. No greeting. No dear Maya. Just a single paragraph. Effective next month, rent for the garage apartment will increase from $400 to $850 per month. If this is not workable, 30 days notice to vacate is required. Renee's signature at the bottom. Neat. Final. I sat down and did the math on the back of a grocery receipt. $850 for the apartment. $350 for health insurance if she dropped me from the family plan, which something in my chest told me was exactly what was planned next. That is $1,200 a month on a veterinary technician's salary before food, gas, or the student loans I had taken out for community college. It did not work. It was not meant to work. I walked across the yard to the main house. Dale was in the kitchen pouring coffee. "Did you see the note?" I asked. He did not look up. "Your mother has her reasons, Maya. Amber needs a place. And where do I go?" Dale stirred his coffee. The spoon clinked against the mug 3 times, 4 times. He said nothing. I stood there for 10 full seconds, and then I walked back to my apartment, opened my laptop, and searched for rental listings in Millhaven. Studios starting at $650. 1 bedrooms around $800. Tight on my salary, but possible. Especially if I transferred to a clinic out there. That night I called Sandra. I told her about the rent increase, the insurance. Her response came before I had even finished the sentence. "You can stay with us as long as you need," she said. "James is already clearing the guest room." I am not going from one dependency to another, I told her. "Paige, you can pay rent." "Maya," I said. "Right. Maya. Let me pay my way." She was quiet for 3 seconds. Then she said, "You sound exactly like me at 22. Stubborn as anything." I almost laughed. Almost. The morning after the rent notice, I sat in the clinic break room and called the insurance company. If my parents remove me from their family plan before I turn 26, what are my options? The representative was efficient and direct. You would have a 60-day qualifying event window to enroll in a marketplace plan. Around $300 to $350 per month for a single person your age in a rural zone. High deductible but doable. I wrote the number on a napkin and folded it into my pocket. Dara found me that afternoon reorganizing the medication storage closet, which I only do when I am trying not to think about something. Why not just confront them now? She asked. Tell them you know. Tell them it is over. I closed the cabinet carefully. Because if I confront them before I am ready, I lose everything at once. Housing, insurance, and the only leverage I have, which is that they do not know what I know. I need all three handled before I say a single word. Dara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You are not waiting because you are scared, are you? No, I said. I am waiting because I want to be ready. Not angry, not desperate. Ready. 4 days before my birthday, Renee knocked on my apartment door. The performance smile was fully on. Maggie's place Friday night. She tilted her head in that way she does when she is being careful about something. We have something important to discuss. It will be nice. I searched her face. Sure, Mom, I said. Sounds nice. She patted my arm, the gesture I now recognized as the one she uses right before she takes something, and walked back across the yard. The second her screen door closed, I picked up my phone. Sandra, I said. It is happening. Friday night, Maggie's place. Silence on her end. Then, steady, what do you need from us? Come to the restaurant. Book a table, but sit separately. Do not come over unless I signal you. I need to hear what they say first. We will be there, Sandra said. James is already grabbing his keys. Sandra, I said. It is 4 days away. I know. I just want him to know we are going. I sat on the edge of my bed after we hung up. The envelope was in my bag. Sandra's letter, the DNA results, a photograph taken last month of the four of us squinting in the afternoon sun in front of the Calloway house. I pressed my hand against the outside of the bag like I was checking for a heartbeat. 4 days to hold my breath. 4 days to keep my face perfectly normal. 4 days to wait for the moment Renee told me, in a room full of people who believed everything she had ever said about herself, exactly what I had always been to her. Come back for part 3. Because what happens inside that restaurant, from the moment I walk through the door to the moment Renee says the words nobody wanted you in front of 40 people who had only ever heard her version of this story, is the moment that changed everything. And I have been waiting to tell it for a long time. Welcome back. I am Maya. Friday night, Maggie's Diner. The restaurant smells like cornbread and cedar and something warm that I cannot name but have always associated with the one place in this town where nobody has ever been unkind to me. Every table is full or filling. Friday night at Maggie's is sacred in a town of 4,000. The only sit-down restaurant for 15 miles, and it operates like a community living room. Maggie herself, 62 years old and built like someone who has been carrying cast iron skillets her entire life, waves at me from behind the register. Happy birthday, sweetheart, she calls out. I wave back. My hands are steady. My breathing is not quite. I scan the room. In the far corner near the window, Sandra in a blue blouse, James beside her in a flannel shirt, Tyler hunched over his phone. Sandra sees me before I see her. A tiny nod, barely a dip of her chin. That is all. That is enough. I sit at a table in the center of the room. Underneath the table, my right hand closes around the envelope in my bag. Renee and Dale arrive together. Renee is wearing a red dress, the one she saves for Easter and the county fair. Her lipstick matches. She has dressed for a performance. Dale is wearing a button-down with the top button fastened, which he only does when he is genuinely uncomfortable. They slide into the booth across from me. Do not you look pretty tonight, Renee says. 25, can you believe it? Small talk. Renee asks about the clinic. I answer. She does not listen. Her eyes keep flicking to her purse, then to Dale, then back to me. She is running through a script in her head, and the small talk is just the opening act. 2 tables to our right, Pastor Greg Hadley and his wife settle in with menus. Renee notices them immediately. Something passes across her face. Timing. She wants witnesses. She just wants the right kind. Dale is staring at his plate. Renee folds her hands on the table in a way that is almost practiced, almost pastoral. You are adopted, she says. We took you in when you were 3 days old. I do not react. Not because I am acting. Because I have already lived through this moment 8 months ago on a cold basement floor. The shock has had 8 months to become something quieter and harder and much more useful. Renee reads my silence as surprise and keeps going. We kept you because honestly the tax situation made it workable for us. The credits, the deductions, it helped us through some genuinely difficult years. She pauses. A small closed-mouth smile. But now you are 25. The benefits ended. And frankly, Maya, we have done our part. The words hang in the air like smoke above a table. At the next booth, a woman's fork stops halfway to her mouth. Dale clears his throat. We have spoken to a lawyer about formalizing the separation legally. You have 30 days to vacate the apartment, Renee adds, reaching into her purse. She pulls out a folded sheet of paper, same clinical format as the rent notice, and slides it across the table. Amber needs it. I do not look at the paper. I look at Renee. Straight into her eyes. I hold that gaze for 5 full seconds, long enough that she shifts almost imperceptibly in her seat. Is that all? I say. The words come out quieter than I expected. Not hurt, not angry. Just clear. Renee blinks. The smile falters. She was expecting tears. Maybe a lowered voice, maybe begging, something she could manage and walk away from feeling noble and generous. She was not expecting this. What do you mean, is that all? She says. I do not answer. Not yet. Because what I say next will change everything in this room, and I want her to feel the silence first. Renee has never been comfortable with silence. It is a space she cannot control, and Renee needs to control every room she enters. I know this is difficult, she says, leaning forward slightly. But it is better you hear it from us than find out some other way. How generous of you, I say. Her jaw tightens. Do not get sarcastic. We raised you. We fed you. We gave you a roof. For $5,400 a year, I say. The number lands. Renee's hand twitches on the table. She did not expect me to know that figure. Dale goes very still. Glenn clears his throat. This does not have to be ugly, Maya. Then why did you bring paperwork to a birthday dinner? He does not have an answer for that. Renee reaches back into her purse, pulls out a pen, and sets it beside the folded sheet. Sign this tonight, she says, and we will give you the full 30 days. If you do not, it is 2 weeks. Her voice is louder than she intends. 2 tables over, Pastor Greg sets down his fork. At the back, Maggie pauses with a coffee pot in her hand, her eyes moving between Renee and me. I look at the pen. Then at the paper. Then at Renee. I am not signing anything at a dinner table, Renee. The name lands differently than anything else. Not Mom. Renee. First time in 25 years. Renee's mouth opens. Closes. Her nostrils flare. For just a moment, the mask comes all the way down. Not sadness, not regret. Pure uncut irritation that I am not following the script she wrote for this evening. She was supposed to deliver the news. I was supposed to crumble. She was supposed to comfort me just enough to feel righteous. I was supposed to sign. I did none of those things. Excuse me, Renee says, her voice dropping to something sharp and low. I am still your mother. You just told me you are not. The sentence sits between us like a wall. Dale makes a sound somewhere between a cough and a groan and shifts in his seat. Renee's grip on her wineglass tightens until her knuckles go pale. I raised you, she says. That makes me your mother. Then why does it feel like a transaction that just expired? Renee's eyes move around the restaurant. She can feel people watching. This was supposed to be contained. A quiet handoff in a familiar room. But I am not cooperating, and Renee cannot stand a scene she does not direct. Fine, she says, and something in her voice shifts completely, the pretense of gentleness dropping away all at once. You want the truth? Your real mother was some girl from Millhaven who could not even take care of. Stop. One word. Low and clear. I hold up one hand, palm out, and Renee actually stops mid-sentence. Not because she respects me. Because the look on my face is something she has never seen before, and it unsettles her in a way she does not know how to manage. You do not get to talk about her, I say. Not tonight. Not ever. Her. Renee almost laughs. You do not even know her. I do not answer. Instead, I reach into my bag and pull out the envelope slowly. I set it on the table between us, next to the unsigned paper and the uncapped pen. Renee stares at it. Plain white envelope, slightly worn at the corner from months inside my bag. What is that? She says. I let the question hang. Dale leans forward, squinting. Pastor Greg 2 tables over has completely stopped pretending not to listen. I rest my fingertips on the envelope and wait. Because what is inside this envelope is going to dismantle every story Renee Hartley has ever told about herself in this town. And I want her to feel it coming before it arrives. Renee cannot stand the silence. She never could. Answer me, Maya. What is in that envelope? And that is when she makes the mistake I knew she would make. Because when Renee cannot control the conversation, she goes somewhere cruel. Nobody else wanted you, she says. Her voice carries in that way it does when she forgets there are walls. Nobody. We took you in. At least we gave you something. I hear a fork drop at the next table. Not set down. Dropped. Pastor Greg turns fully in his chair. Maggie behind the register puts down the coffee pot and folds her arms. Dale reaches for Renee's arm. Renee. Maybe not right now. She shakes him off. She needs to hear this. I feel the heat rise from my chest to my jaw. Not shame. Something older and sharper and 8 months in the making. Because I have sat at Sandra Calloway's kitchen table. I have read her letter, the one where she describes being 22 and alone in a delivery room while her family pressured her to sign papers she did not fully understand. I know who Sandra is. And hearing Renee call her nobody in front of 40 people who have only ever heard Renee's version of this story is the one thing I cannot let stand. In the far corner, Sandra has heard every word. James's hand is on her shoulder. Tyler's jaw is clenched. Are you done? I say. Renee straightens her dress. Yes. I open the envelope. Come back for part 4. Because what I put on that table, one item at a time, in front of every person in that restaurant, is the part 1 have been building toward for 8 months. And the moment Sandra Calloway stands up from that corner table and walks across the room, is the moment I have been waiting for my entire life. I open the envelope. First, I place the DNA results on the table. Printed, flat, face up. 99.7% match. I lay it where Renee can read every word. Second, I set down a photograph. Taken last month, the 4 of us standing in afternoon sun outside the Calloway house. Me, Sandra, James, Tyler. All of us squinting, all of us smiling. Real smiles, the kind that nobody performs. The kind you cannot fake. I place the photo in the center of the table facing Renee. Funny you should bring up my real mother, I say. Because I found her 8 months ago. Renee's face goes completely still. Not shocked. Frozen. Like a screen that has crashed but has not yet gone dark. Dale pushes back from the table, his chair scraping the floor. Her name is Sandra Calloway, I continue, keeping my voice level and measured. She is a community health nurse in Millhaven. She has been waiting 25 years to find me. She did not throw me away. She was 22 years old and alone, and her family forced her hand. That is not the same thing as being unwanted. Those are not the same thing at all. Renee looks down at the photograph. She sees me standing between two people she has never met, wearing an expression she has never once seen on my face. A daughter who looks like she belongs somewhere. That is not possible, Renee starts. But the words tangle. And one more thing, I say. I pause. Not for drama. Because I need this next sentence to land exactly where I am placing it. They are here right now. In this restaurant. Renee's head snaps up. Her eyes dart across the room, past the booths, past the bar, past Pastor Greg. Searching. Dale grips the edge of the table like the floor has tilted beneath him. In the far corner, Sandra Calloway sets down her napkin. She looks at me. I nod once. Sandra stands. Then James. Then Tyler. 3 people rise from their table and begin walking across Maggie's diner. Not fast, not slow, not making any kind of scene. Just walking the way you walk towards someone you have been looking for your whole life. Sandra is in the blue blouse, the same one she wore the first time we met. Her eyes are red at the edges, but her back is straight. James is a step behind her, solid and quiet, his hand hovering near the small of her back. Tyler follows with his hands in his pockets and his jaw set. The restaurant notices. Conversations thin out, then stop. Silverware goes still. Even the music seems to pull back as Sandra crosses the room and comes to stand beside me. She does not speak. She does not need to. She places one hand on my shoulder. Warm, steady, deliberate. The hand of someone who has been rehearsing this gesture for 25 years and still can barely believe she gets to do it. James stops just behind Sandra, arms at his sides. Tyler flanks his mother on the other side. Maggie sets down the coffee pot behind the register and folds her arms. Pastor Greg has turned completely around in his chair, napkin still tucked in his collar. I look at Renee. Then at Dale. This is Sandra, I say. My mother. The word lands like a stone dropped into still water. I watch the ripple cross Renee's face. Confusion, recognition, fury, all in the space of a single breath. Her mouth opens. Sandra speaks first. I am not here to cause trouble, she says. Her voice is quiet and steady, the voice of a woman who speaks to frightened patients every single day and has learned that volume never helps anyone. I am here because my daughter asked me to be. Renee stands so fast her chair bumps the table. Wine sloshes over the rim of her glass and spreads across the paper she had brought for me to sign. Your daughter, Renee's voice pitches high. I raised her for 25 years. And you just told her she was useless, Sandra says. The sentence travels across the room. I hear it land at the next table, at Pastor Greg's booth, at the counter near the register. Maggie's hand rises to her mouth. Renee spins toward Dale. Say something. Dale opens his mouth. Closes it. His hands are flat on the table like he is trying to keep it from floating away. He says nothing. Renee turns back to me. Her eyes are not hurt. They are cornered. You planned this, she says. You planned this whole thing to humiliate me. No, I say. I planned this so I would not be alone when you did what you just did. She blinks hard. The distinction between revenge and self-protection does not register for her. It will not. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Renee scans the room and every pair of eyes she meets either looks away or holds steady. None of them offer what she is looking for. Karen from the post office, the woman Renee has told the selfless mother story to perhaps 100 times, is sitting 4 tables back with her hand pressed over her mouth. She heard everything. The tax credits. The useless. The nobody wanted you. Karen heard all of it, and Renee can see it written on her face. This is completely inappropriate, Renee says, but her voice has lost its edge. I was a tax write-off, I say. You did not seem to mind then. Dale's face does something quiet and slow. Not dramatic. The way a wall settles after years of bad foundation. He knows I am right. He has known for a long time. James steps forward. Not aggressively. He simply moves to stand beside Sandra, one hand resting on the back of my chair. His presence fills the space Dale left empty. We're not here for a fight, James says. His voice is low and carries the particular weight of a man who builds things with his hands and does not waste words. We are here for Maya. Dale looks at James. For one long exposed moment, the two men occupy the same frame, and the comparison needs no narration. One man drove 2.5 hours to stand behind a daughter he barely knows. The other could not stand up to his wife across a dinner table for the one he raised. Dale reaches for his jacket. I think we should go, Renee. I am not going anywhere until she apologizes, Renee says, but her voice is cracking at the seams. She points at me. After everything I have done. I have nothing to apologize for, I say. Renee stares at me. I hold her gaze and do not soften and do not raise my voice, because I do not have to. The room is already listening. Dale stands and walks toward the door. He does not take Renee's arm. He does not wait for her. For the first time in I do not know how many years, Dale Hartley walks away from his wife in a public place, and Renee is left standing alone. Her eyes sweep the room one final time. They land on Pastor Greg. Greg, her voice breaks slightly. You know me. You know what kind of mother I have been. Tell them. Pastor Greg looks at Renee for a long moment. His wife places a hand on his forearm. The whole restaurant holds its breath, because when Pastor Greg speaks, this town listens. I think this is a conversation you need to have with God and with your daughter, Lorraine, he says gently. Not with me. No judgment in his voice. No harshness. Somehow that makes it worse. Renee's face does something I have never seen it do before. It crumples. Not into sadness, not into regret. Into the realization that the story she has been telling for 25 years has just ended. And every single person in this room watched it happen. She grabs her purse. She does not pick up the unsigned paper. Does not take the pen. Does not look at me. She walks to the door, heels clicking on the hardwood floor. It is the loudest sound in the restaurant. Dale is waiting near the exit. Before he follows her out, he turns back. His mouth opens. I think he is about to say something. An apology, maybe. An explanation. A goodbye, but nothing comes. He looks at me, then at Sandra's hand on my shoulder, and he closes his mouth. Nods once. Slow and small, like a man finally acknowledging something he should have acknowledged a very long time ago. The front door swings shut. The bell above it jingles. The restaurant exhales. I look down at the table. Renee's wine glass still half full. The paper soaked and unsigned. The pen uncapped and useless. And beside them, my photograph, Sandra's letter, and the truth that all the carefully managed stories in the world could not outrun. The noise comes back in layers. A murmur near the window. A fork on a plate. The kitchen door swinging. And then Sandra slides into the empty chair across from me, and James takes the one beside her, and Tyler drags a chair from the neighboring table and wedges it in at the end, his long legs bumping the table leg, and Maggie appears with extra place settings balanced on her forearm. This one is on the house tonight, she says. All of it. She walks away before anyone can argue. And Tyler picks up a menu and says, "So can we order?" I drove 2.5 hours and I am genuinely starving. The laugh that comes out of me is sudden and completely real, and Sandra laughs too, a wet hiccuping sound that makes James grin from across the table, and even Pastor Greg 2 booths over cracks a smile. And that is what it sounds like when something broken finally starts to heal. Part 5 is the part one most want you to hear. Stay with me. The next morning, I wake up in the garage apartment for the last time. The ceiling is the same water-stained drywall I have stared at for 7 years. The window looks out over Renee's herb garden, the one she planted so the neighbors would admire it, not because she ever intended to use it. Everything in this room is familiar, and none of it belongs to me. Not really. Not in the way things belong to you when you chose them. I pack my life into 4 cardboard boxes. That is everything. Clothes, books, my vet tech certifications, the photo of Sandra and James from last month, a coffee mug Dara gave me that says I would rather be covered in fur. 7 years in this place, and my whole life fits in the back seat of a Honda Civic. Dara arrives at 8. She does not ask questions. She just starts carrying boxes. At 9, I call the insurance marketplace. Change of address, qualifying life event, new plan effective in 60 days. I write the confirmation number on the back of a gas station receipt and fold it into my wallet. At 9:30, I walk across the yard to the main house. Renee's car is in the driveway, but the curtains are drawn. She is in there, and she does not want to see me, and I find I do not need to see her. I leave the apartment key on the kitchen counter. Next to it, I place the move-out paper, signed, with one line written beneath my signature in blue ink. You do not need 30 days. I am done today. No letter. No speech. No final scene. Dara and I pull out of the driveway at 10. I do not look in the rearview mirror for the first 3 miles. Then I do. The house is small and getting smaller. I do not cry when I leave. I cry 15 minutes later when the GPS says, "You are now entering Millhaven," and it sounds like the first honest thing anyone has said to me in years. The following week, I visit a legal aid office in Millhaven. The attorney is a woman named Sandra, which feels like the universe making a small joke. She has a desk covered in family photos and listens with her pen completely still, which I have learned means she is hearing something that does not surprise her. First things first, she says. There is no legal mechanism in this state or any state to disown an adult child. Whatever Dale told you about consulting a lawyer, he was bluffing. You are a legal adult. The adoption was finalized 25 years ago. It is done. There is no paperwork, no petition, no judge who would hear it. I feel something loosen in my chest. A knot I had not realized I had been holding since the night Dale said, in that careful rehearsed voice, "We have spoken to a lawyer." Sandra also helps me file a request for my original birth certificate and full adoption records. 3 weeks later, a manila envelope arrives at the Callaway house. Inside, my birth certificate with Sandra's name. And in the adoption file, a detail I did not know. Sandra did not voluntarily relinquish me. Her parents signed on her behalf. She was 22, but in that county at that time, the family had pressured her through a process she barely understood. No attorney represented her. No one explained her rights. Sandra is in the kitchen when I read that page. I do not show her immediately. Some truths need the right moment. That night I send Dale one text. The lawyer confirmed there is no such thing as legally disowning an adult child. You knew that. I hope someday you think about why you went along with it anyway. He reads it that evening. He never replies. Tell me in the comments. And if you have dealt with something similar, share your story. You are not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. 1 month out, I am in the guest room at the Callaway house, paying $300 a month that Sandra refuses to cash. I leave the checks on the kitchen counter. Tom quietly slips them into the household jar when Sandra is not looking. We have an unspoken arrangement. It works. The new vet clinic in Millhaven is smaller. Dr. Patel runs a two-person operation, and the waiting room smells like wet golden retriever by 9 every morning. It is perfect. Tyler and I watch movies on Saturday nights. He insists on horror. I insist on anything else. We compromise on action films and argue about pizza toppings with the kind of genuine passion that I am learning is just what siblings do. It is the most ordinary thing I have ever experienced, and I cannot get enough of it. Sandra teaches me her lasagna recipe on a Sunday afternoon. Midway through layering the noodles, she stops and stares at my hands. "You roll your sleeves exactly the way I do," she says. I look down. She is right. Same fold, same crease, same tuck at the elbow. 25 years apart, and our hands learned the same habit without anyone teaching either of us. She does not say anything else about it. She does not need to. In the evenings I sit on the Callaway back porch. The yard runs into a tree line, and if you are quiet, you can hear the creak behind the oaks. One evening James comes out and sits in the chair beside mine without saying anything. He sets a mug of coffee on the armrest between us and looks out at the same sky. We sit like that for 10 minutes. Silent. Comfortable. That is what a family sounds like when it is real. Sometimes it does not sound like anything at all. Back in my hometown, I hear the updates through Dara. Karen from the post office tells her sister. Her sister tells the book club. The book club tells the PTA. Within 48 hours, every living room in town has heard some version of what happened at Maggie's place. The pews around Renee's usual church spot are emptier than normal on Sunday. Not dramatically, just enough. Small adjustments. Polite distances. The way a small town says we know without anyone having to say a word. Pastor Greg's sermon that week is about stewardship. He does not mention Renee by name. He does not need to. There is a difference, he says from the pulpit, between raising a child and owning one. Renee posts one line on social media. Sometimes being a parent means making the hardest decisions for your child's own good. She gets 3 likes, 47 comments, and not the kind she was hoping for. She deletes the post within 2 hours. Amber, my cousin, the one whose arrival was supposedly the reason I had to leave, moves out of the garage apartment after 6 weeks. She had heard the whole story from about 15 different people and told her friends she felt like she was living inside someone else's eviction notice. She texts me eventually. Says she is sorry. Says she did not ask for any of this. I tell her I know. Because she is right. She was just the excuse Renee needed. She was a pawn. Same as I was, just a different square on the board. Dale calls once. 3 weeks after everything. His voice sounds like a man who has not slept properly in days. I did not want it to go like that, he says. How did you want it to go, Dale? Silence. I hear him breathing. We were broke when we got you, he says finally. The credits kept us afloat. And then your mother, Renee, she just got used to the arrangement. He catches himself on the name. Renee instead of your mother. Like even he can hear the separation now. The arrangement, I say. Is that what you called raising me? I am not good at this, Maya. I know you are not, I say. You were never good at standing up when it mattered. He is quiet. I can hear a television in the background. A game show. He is alone. I am not angry, Dale, I say. And I realize as I say it that it is completely true. The anger left somewhere around the 3rd week in Millhaven. What is left is something quieter and heavier and much more honest. I am just done. Maybe we could, he starts, then does not finish the sentence. Maybe someday, I say. But right now I need space. And you need to understand why you let her do what she did for 25 years. I hang up. I go back to the beagle I was weighing when he called. He does not call again. But on Tuesday mornings, a 2-word text arrives. Hope you are well. I reply, I am. 2 words back. That is enough for now. 1 year later. March 15th. I am 26 years old, and for the first time in my life, my birthday dinner does not come with a script or a performance or an envelope full of documents designed to diminish me. The table at the Calloway house is set for 5. Sandra made lasagna, the same recipe she taught me, except hers is always going to be better and we both know it. James grilled steaks on the back porch because you cannot have a birthday without something charred on the outside. Tyler bought a cake from the bakery in town and wrote "Happy Birthday Sis" across the top in frosting that is already sliding sideways. Dara drove 2.5 hours to be here. She walks in carrying a bottle of wine and a card that reads, "To the only coworker I would commit a minor felony for." No envelope on this table. No unsigned papers. No pen. No exit strategy disguised as a celebration. Sandra carries out the cake with 26 candles, and the kitchen fills with warm light. "This is the first time I get to do this in person," she says, and her voice catches on the last word and she laughs at herself for crying, and I laugh a little too, and Tyler rolls his eyes at both of us and says "Here we go," which makes everyone laugh harder. I close my eyes over the candles. I do not make a wish. Everything I need is already sitting at this table, loud and imperfect and present. I blow them out. James reaches over and squeezes my shoulder. Dara raises her glass. Sandra cries a little, which makes me cry a little, which makes Tyler groan dramatically and reach for the frosting, and it is the most ordinary birthday I have ever had. It is the best birthday I have ever had. On my wrist, the hospital bracelet on its silver chain. Faded pink plastic, barely legible ink. Baby girl Calloway. I wear it every single day. Not as a reminder of what I lost. As proof of what I found. I have my own apartment now. $650 a month, 2nd floor, with a window that faces the tree line. Every bill in my name. Marketplace insurance. Nobody's tax benefit. Nobody's arrangement. Just Maya. Here is what I want to leave you with. Not advice. I am 26. I am in no position to hand out advice. Just what I learned. Renee did not destroy me that night at Maggie's place. She freed me. She just did not know it. I do not hate her. Hate takes energy I would rather spend on the people who actually want me around. And honestly, hating Renee would mean she still occupies space in my life. I have spent 25 years giving her space she never earned. Real families are not perfect. They are present. That is the whole difference. Tom taught me how to change a tire last month. I am 26. I should have learned at 16. But the man who was supposed to teach me was too busy not making waves. Tyler sends me memes I pretend to understand. He knows I am pretending. It is our thing. Sandra and I are still learning each other, filling in 25 years of gaps one Sunday afternoon at a time. If someone holds your basic needs over your head, housing, insurance, documents, access to your own story, and calls it love, that is not love. That is leverage. And you do not owe gratitude for leverage. I did not get revenge that night at Maggie's place. I got clarity. And clarity, it turns out, is louder than any speech I could have prepared. Tonight I am sitting in my apartment in Millhaven. The one with the window that faces the trees. The dishes from dinner are still in the sink. Dara left an hour ago. Tyler texted me a birthday meme I do not understand but sent a laughing emoji for anyway. On my kitchen windowsill, I set a single white candle in a glass holder and I light it. For 25 years, Sandra lit a candle on this date. Every March 15th, a small flame on her kitchen windowsill, marking the birthday of a daughter she could not hold. James knew. Tyler knew. They never asked her to explain. It was just what she did. A quiet act of love that never stopped, even when she had no reason to believe it would ever be returned. Now it is my turn. But I am not lighting this candle for what was lost. I am lighting it for the start of something. For the first birthday I celebrated without performing gratitude. For the first year I have lived on ground that nobody can pull out from under me. For Sandra who waited. For James who showed up. For Tyler who called me sis before I was ready to hear it and kept saying it until I was. I spent 25 years being someone's tax benefit. Now I am just someone's daughter. And that is more than enough. The flame flickers once, then holds steady. So do I.